Greetings, my name is Louise Dente, and I welcome you to yet another edition of Cultural Caravan. On this edition, we're going to take you to the Schomburg Library in Harlem, New York, in celebration of the works of a great artist, writer, and activist, Ossie Davis.
We at the Schomburg Center try to merge entertainment and education and make it a part of the day-to-day experiences of those who come here each and every day of the week. And we welcome you here and welcome you to this evening's program. I finally have the privilege, the honor of introducing one of your hosts who will present the other. A gentleman who needs no introduction in New York City, certainly not in Harlem, doesn't need an introduction, in fact, anywhere in the world. New York City's first black mayor and the mayor of this community, the Honorable David Dinkins.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful for your applause. I've been directed to give you a brief overview of the purpose of the endowment we're here to support this evening. But permit me first to share a little story with you about Mr. Ossie Davis. It was at the close of the very first Congressional Black Caucus weekend gathering in Washington, D.C., when Ossie rose to his feet to deliver his message to the African American members of Congress, their colleagues in both houses, friends, and I guess some enemies as well. Up to this point in the proceedings, there was much speech-making, eloquent and otherwise, some on point and some not, but all compelling in their delivery. As I recall, by the time Ossie came to the microphone, the hour was growing late, and a point cried out for expression, and he expressed it. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, he said, it ain't the rap, it's the map. Ruby, you do remember that. Whenever I rise to speak, I hear that baritone voice urging me to go easy on the rap and follow the map. In other words, less talk and more action, and we'll get to where we're going that much faster. Action was the order of the day for Ossie and Ruby each day of their lives together. Though they enjoyed considerable celebrity and well-earned fame for their artistry on stage, screen, and television, their activism on behalf of just causes earned them the gratitude of the marginalized and disenfranchised the world over. As everyone here tonight knows, some of their most riveting roles never played Broadway or Hollywood. They played the city streets and country roads across America. They played the tenements of New York City, the houses of South Central Los Angeles, the shacks of Soweto. These were two who challenged injustice wherever they found it, and the road they traveled was far from easy, beginning with their refusal to cooperate with the communist witch hunt of the House Un-American Activities Committee investigations led by Senator Joe McCarthy in the 1950s, through the March on Washington, which they emceed in the 1960s, and the anti-apartheid struggle and police brutality protests since then. Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee earned their positions as activist royalty. They've been an inspiration for a generation of activists and are the best examples of what people are capable of doing when the heart and brain are working in concert to solve problems. And tonight, we wish to thank Ruby for their contributions to the futures of the many who will be the beneficiaries of the Ossie Davis Endowment. The campaign for the Ossie Davis Endowment is being spearheaded by friends and admirers of Ossie Davis with the blessings of the Davis family. A long list that includes Joyce and me, that's my bride of 55 years come August. And many others who share Ossie's and Ruby's passion for the education of young people of color everywhere. The goal of the campaign is to raise $1 million a year for each of the next 5 years for a fundraising target of $5 million. We know we can do it. This is year one, and we're already nearly halfway to our $1 million goal for the year, having raised over $500,000. And to help us go the distance for this year, organizers have planned a series of great fundraising events nationwide, beginning with a star-studded event on February 29th with a special performance by Odetta and readings of Ossie's play, The People of Clarendon County, by Ruby, by Lou Gossett, by Reverend James Forbes, and Alan Alder at the Bread and Roses Cultural Project. We, of course, will be treated today and through the weekend to a preview of readings from the play by notable members of the National Black Touring Circuit under the direction of the inimitable Woody King. Now the Ossie Davis Endowment is not just a scholarship. Ossie Davis scholars must not only show academic promise, but must demonstrate a commitment to use their careers as vehicles of social and political activism, in keeping with the beliefs and practice of their benefactor. Scholarship applications will be accepted in June, and the campaign's first year will culminate with an announcement of the inaugural class of Ossie Davis scholars and the awarding of their scholarships. We're in for a treat right now as we hear Ossie's words spoken by some of our favorites. Tonight we have Glynn Turman, Lynn Whitfield, and Ruben Santiago Hudson. But first, on behalf of the Ossie Davis Endowment, I am privileged to present a great lady and dear friend to tell you more. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, the 2008 Oscar nominee, Miss Ruby Dee.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, oh my, you know, I'm truly happy. I'm so happy to be here tonight, and it's always good to see David Dinkins and Woody King and so many of our dear friends, including the performers in Ossie's play, The People of Clarendon County. You know, I can scarcely believe that it's been more than 50 years since Ossie and I first met Mo Foner and what was to become our union family, Local 1199, the Drug and Hospital Workers Union. It was Negro History Week, and Mo asked us to come up with something to present to the union members. Ossie, inspired by Brown versus Board, wrote this story, which offers a snapshot of a country on the verge of change. It pleased Ossie to imagine that the People of Clarendon County would be performed by children everywhere and demonstrate the power of even the smallest voice to change the world. Ossie had a passion for education. He had hitchhiked from southern Georgia, from southern Georgia to Washington, D.C. in the hopes of attending Howard University. And that hope was realized when he received a National Youth Administration Scholarship as a part of FDR's, Franklin Delano Roosevelt's, New Deal. How profoundly satisfied he would be to know that scholars across the country will be given that same opportunity in his name. The Ossie Davis Endowment is a magnificent tribute to his memory, spearheaded by a small group of friends who share his passion for education. The endowment will support Ossie Davis scholars, bright, passionate African-American students who demonstrate a commitment to activism as a vehicle for social justice and opportunity, as Ossie himself did. This weekend, thanks to Alice Bernstein and Third World Press, and of course to Woody King Jr., we are able to experience Ossie's voice and to benefit the endowment that bears his name. Now, I'm pleased right now to introduce Alice Bernstein, whose passion for Ossie's work has in many ways brought us here tonight. A scholar, journalist, and champion of aesthetic realism, Alice is a contributing editor to the just published African American National Biography, edited by Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Evelyn Brooks Higginbotham. She is working on an oral history project and a documentary called The Force of Ethics in Civil Rights. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my deep pleasure to introduce here tonight, Alice Bernstein.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy and moved by this historic occasion, the revival of the play Ossie Davis wrote in 1955 in celebration of the first anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education. It is an honor to have edited the new book by Third World Press, The People of Clarendon County, a play by Ossie Davis, with photographs and historical documents and essays on the education that can end racism. That education is aesthetic realism, founded in 1941 by the philosopher Eli Siegel. Clarendon County is a rural community in South Carolina where in the 1950s, Reverend Joseph Armstrong Delane and other African American parents risked everything for their children's education. They filed the first legal challenge to segregation in the public schools, paving the way to the breakthrough 1954 Supreme Court decision, Brown versus Board of Education. The following year, Ossie Davis wrote a short play honoring this momentous ruling, The People of Clarendon County. It was performed only once to an enthusiastic audience of Union brothers and sisters at Local 1199, as Ms. D told us, the Bread and Roses Project in New York City. The young actors were Ossie Davis, Ruby Dee, and Sidney Poitier. While the play inspired other works, it was essentially forgotten. In May 2004, almost 50 years later, in preparation for an interview with him, I sent Mr. Davis articles I had written, which had appeared in my column in the South Carolina Black News and elsewhere. These included a story about Reverend Delane and my interview with Congressman Elijah Cummings of Maryland, who was then chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. In these articles, I wrote about what aesthetic realism explains is the cause of racism and every instance of human injustice: contempt, the addition to self through the lessening of something else. And what it has shown is the answer: criticism of contempt, including in oneself, and seeing that our individuality is more through wanting to know and be fair to the world and people. I also wrote about lectures on world thought and history given by Eli Siegel, from whose passion and conviction I learned to see the feelings of other people as real and as deep as my own. In these conversations with Ossie Davis, we discussed my articles and very much else. He was very interested in my work against racism, including with children, and how I came to write for the South Carolina Black News. It was then that I learned about his play. He said it had never been published, and he wasn't sure the manuscript still existed, but that if it did, it would be among the D. and Davis papers at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. A few months later, that is where I found the original manuscript, right here at the Schomburg Center. I'll always remember Ossie Davis's excitement when I called to tell him that I'd found it and that I imagined children acting it in their schools. "I have to sit down before I fall," he said. "I can't have this conversation standing up." "So you think there's life in it?" he asked. "I do, very much," I replied, and mentioned my idea of writing an introduction to it, which would have what aesthetic realism explains about the cause of and answer to all prejudice. I felt this combination could be a powerful means of fighting racism. He said, "You certainly have my permission without any restrictions to do what you feel is best." I am profoundly grateful to Ossie Davis for entrusting me with the publication of this work in which history, drama, and feeling for people come together. I promised him I would use this play in behalf of having children learn about drama and history and to fight racism. His enthusiasm about my vision of having the people of Clarendon County alive in a new way and in relation to the study of aesthetic realism, which I know can finally defeat the filth and poison of racism. These conversations with Ossie inspired me. I'm very grateful to Hakeem Adabuti and Third World Press for publishing this book, and to Ruby D for warmly supporting it. It is an honor to be a means through this book of continuing the legacy of Ossie Davis and his profound commitment to art, justice, and education. And I will happily do everything I can to keep my promise to him. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the honor to hear Ossie Davis's play, The People of Clarendon County, for the first time in 53 years.
On May 17, 1954, the Supreme Court of the United States handed down without dissent one of the most significant decisions in its long and eventful history. The court ruled that segregation in public schools is unconstitutional. Before that, in 17 states and districts of Columbia, Negroes and whites were required by law to go to separate schools, ride in separate coaches, eat in separate restaurants, die in separate hospitals, and get themselves buried as far from each other as possible in separate graveyards. Yes, Jim Crow has been carried on the Southern law books for a long time, since 1896, in fact, when the Supreme Court had ruled that separate but equal facilities for white and for black did not violate the 14th Amendment. Well, how did it start, this fight which dealt old Jim such a stunning blow? Who were the people that got the whole thing on foot and underway? What were they looking for? What did they seek? Well, those schools in Clarendon County, South Carolina, were separate, all right, but they certainly weren't equal. The case that made legal history and rocked the Southland to its foundation, a little community fighting to give their children a decent education, just like everybody else, William Ragan, Reverend Delaney, and the men from the other families went on to the schoolhouse and did what they had to do, just as they had done so many times in the past. But this time, they didn't split up and go their separate ways home after they finished. This time, they put their heads together and went instead to the all-white Board of Education. Now, they were politely received, courteously listened to, and given the same old answer.
Oh, yes, we'll have it fixed up just as soon as we can get around to it.
That's all?
That's all. Oh. Now, you boys got to be a little patient. Y'all have to wait some. Wait my eye. We tired of waiting. This time, the time has come to take steps, and that's just what we done.
How's that?
We got ourselves a lawyer, and a damn good one, too. NAACP man said the only way to get action was to sue.
Sue? You mean sue the white folks?
Sue the Board of Education.
Is it legal?
Of course it's legal. You can sue anybody you want to, long as you got a case against them. And we have got a case. Huh. Do you know just how much money Negroes in the county pay in school taxes alone each year?
Well, won't it? It costs money.
Of course it costs money. Mm? But the NAACP lawyer is so interested in the case, he offering his services free. Oh, we told him everything. Later, right on the line, how the school board gave the white children a brand new gymnasium while we ain't had a coat of paint since before the war. Now, ain't but one thing to do, he said. Take them to court and make them give you equal facilities with the white folk.
Make them give it to us. Oh, we can't make white folks do nothing.
No, maybe right. Maybe we can't, but the law can.
The law? William, the law is one thing for the white man and another thing for us.
Well, that's just what the lawyer said is wrong, and we gonna put a stop to that.
Oh, us here in Carolina? Oh, Lord. They won't like it, William. They won't like being sued, especially by us. You know what those people do now, and you know how they will when you make trouble for them.
You call trying to get yourself a decent school making trouble?
What?
Besides, this ain't just you and me and Reverend Delane. This is everybody, every black man, woman, and child in Clarendon County. And if we stick together...
Will we stick together?
Of course we will. Now, that's where you come in.
Me?
You, Glynn, everybody. See, the lawyer's drawing up a petition to take into court that the Negro children in Clarendon County are being denied equal protection of the law.
Oh.
Now, there's about 1,000 parents in the county with children in school. We want every one of their names on that petition.
You think people will sign a thing like that? Our people?
Well, what have they got to lose? What have they got to lose, huh?
You've been in the South as long as I have. You know how good and well what they got to lose. You know what they got to lose. Their lives.
Oh, Mary.
Oh, you remember those 4 people killed down in Monroe, Georgia, don't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Lined them up, shot them down like dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Never caught nobody.
That's right, and that soldier, the sheriff put his eyes out. Oh, Lord, sometimes when I just think about Glenn. And now they're suing the school board, the white school board.
Doggone it, Mary, I'm thinking about Glenn, too. Now, how much longer you expect me to be able to look Glenn in the face? How can I look myself in the face if we don't do something? Huh? You want us to go back and tell that lawyer to drop the case?
No.
Now, I know this is a serious thing, honey. Dead serious. Somebody may get hurt. You, me, maybe even Glenn. Now, if you know another way except to fight them and to keep on fighting.
You finished your supper?
Yeah. Where you going? Baby, where you going?
Well, if we gonna get those 1,000 names on that petition, we better get a move on, huh?
Greetings, my name is Louise Dente, and we're here now joined by Ruben Santiago Hudson, who just did a tremendous performance in the People of Clarendon County. Welcome to the Cultural Caravan.
Thank you for having me.
You know, Ruben, I admire your work. You have been tremendous in terms of really just telling our story from, this. Tell me, what do you feel about the significance of this event today?
Well, first of all, Ossie Davis was such a prideful man, a man full of dignity and humanity, and he was very concerned about the place of our people, in the way we were perceived. And he was a fighter and a warrior, and he led by example, and it was just an honor to do anything that he has written or anything that he's participated in or anything he would ask me to be in. And when Miss Ruby shows her face, and everybody in the country better show up. And I knew that I needed to be here to represent him and to try to do him proud.
I know that throughout your career, you have really portrayed the African American experience of our people in such a strong way. And from the Lackawanna Blues, which you authored and was your own biographical story, to this one. Tell us about, one of the things about Ossie Davis is he was about telling our history through arts. What is your vision as an artist? How has you taken that to the next level in terms of your work as an artist?
Well, I think as artists, we not only have a responsibility to entertain, but to enlighten. And we, as a people of color, don't have opportunities to squander. So whenever I can help battle those deceptive and deviant perceptions of my people in my art, I'm going to do that. Every character I play, good or bad, I'm going to try to play him whole and have a certain amount of integrity. As a criminal, as a lawyer, as a teacher, as a reverend, whatever I play, I want to bring integrity to it to show us as whole, because our characters normally aren't written whole. And Ossie led by example. I go back to that because he was such a proud, dignified man. And for a younger actor like me coming up behind him, and he would always encourage me and call me a young lion, and he would always tell me, go get him. And so I'm always encouraged by the sound of his voice, and inspired by him telling me that I could do something, and I should, and I had a responsibility to do something. And that something was to represent my people in a very wholesome way that was full of integrity.
In terms of the celebration of Ossie Davis, we're celebrating our people, the artwork, and so forth. If is anything that you can tell those out there who are listening in terms of what we can do to get more positive images of people of African descent on screen, what can we do to support that thrust in terms of supporting positive images as you've done and as Ossie did in his lifetime?
Well, we have to first of all, exactly what you said, support. We have to put our resources together and find out how to create, develop, and produce our own things. We have opportunities, and we're squandering them. We have to make these opportunities fly, and if we come together with our resources, which are vast, we can do a lot. We tell our stories, we act in our stories, but we need to produce our stories and bring these vital stories to life, and so the whole world can see us as whole human beings.
Well, I want to thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing more of your wonderful work. Thank you. Louise Dente here, joined by Glynn Turman. Glynn, I admire your work for many years. You basically, your performances from Raise It in the Sun through one other piece that I'm in, Five on the Black Hand Side, and of course recently The Wire, and of course your self-portrait, Moving Man. It's great to join you. Please tell us about the significance of this work to you in terms of, just being part of this.
Well, first of all, it's an absolute honor to be a part of this wonderful event. It's always great to honor Miss D, Ruby D, and Mr. Ossie Davis, and to be asked to be a part of this work was by Woody King was just fantastic. There are few voices that ring so clearly and are so current from an inception of a movement. And of course, Ossie Davis was one of those voices. And it's clear that his vision was right on point. When you read and hear what he's got to say about the political situation in this country and where it was headed and what it's got to overcome and what it has overcome. So to be a part of something that was just so right on point was just great.
Throughout your career, you have always portrayed positive images of our people in the spirit of Ossie in terms of telling our story. In terms of what's there today, what do you think needs to happen in terms of ensuring that positive, constructive images of our people in the spirit of Ossie Davis can continue in terms of the work that you've done and the work that Ossie did?
Well, I had the great pleasure of working with and knowing Mr. Davis and Miss Diaz from a young age. And I paid attention, if not consciously, subconsciously, what they were speaking about in terms of dignity and choice of roles and what needed to be portrayed was always in the forefront. And so I kind of paid attention to my elders, and we were people who had a great respect for elders, for our elders, as a tradition. And what my comment is to the young people: give a little more attention, pay a little more attention to what your elders have to offer, and what they've been through, and what knowledge you may be able to gain, which may help you with some choices that you have to make in your life. So that we don't have to do backsteps or backstrokes to cover territory that's already been waged,
Now, in terms of Moving Man, which is your personal portrait of your life growing up here in Harlem, do you have any goals in terms of bringing that work to New York, to the New York stage, and also what's future? What can we look forward to in terms of that?
Well, of course, I love to bring Moving Man to New York, and we're working on that at this very moment, and hopefully this will take place in the not too distant future. Of course, I'm still on the wire as the mayor, but a piece that I'm very proud of is a movie that I have coming out that stars Tyson Beckford and the wonderful and beautiful Lynn Whitfield, called Kings of the Evening, for which just won the San Diego National Black Theater Film Festival, and it won Best Picture, Best Director, and myself, I won Best Supporting Actor. So this film is called Kings of the Evening, and I hope that your listeners and viewers will look out for it and support it once you see it come to the theaters.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing, and please continue the wonderful work and tribute our people.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Glynn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we're joined by the lovely Lynn Whitfield. Lynn, we really enjoyed your performance. Tell us about the significance of this program for you in terms of, as an artist, in terms of being here tonight.
Well, it was just an honor to speak words that were written by Ossie Davis. More importantly, it's very important that Brown versus the Board of Education, this and the people of Clarendon County, it was the beginning of it, the beginning of the fight. And so, as we said here this evening, after, there's so much still to be done. Things are sometimes still separate and not equal. So, historically, it's significant. To look at the present and realize that there's still more that needs to be done is very, very important. And to be a part of this evening, Ossie Davis's words with Ruby D here at the Schomburg was just a great honor and very, very meaningful to me.
I've admired your work. You have always portrayed some very powerful, positive women of color, particularly your work in terms of portraying the great Josephine Baker. In terms of how Ossie and Ruby in their lifetime have basically portrayed our people, and particularly tried to bring the most positive portrayals and truth portrayals of people, tell us as an artist, what is you feel, what can we do, particularly as artists and like that, to continue to bring positive presentations of our people to the screen as well as stage?
Well, it's just it's a personal commitment to tell the truth about the beauty of our people and the uglies of our people, because by example, you can learn what not to do and what not to be. So I don't really ascribe to the idea that everything has to be an absolutely positive image. The important thing is that what we present has the integrity and honesty of the truth of our beings, good, bad, or indifferent. And that what we present that is not in a positive light is not gratuitous, and not just so that we're being entertained by it. I think that's why some of the people in our community are a little frustrated with programming that's out there now, because the images that are often shown have nothing to do with helping people to be better. It, in fact, inspires our young people to be less than they can be. So you've got to love the truth, got to love it, choose well, and keep the integrity and soul of our purpose, at the center of it, which is kind of what I try to do.
One of the things in closing, there are a lot of young people out there who are interested in careers in the arts, particularly theater. What would you say would be the best thing if someone out there interested in pursuing a career in theater should do? What recommendations in terms of in your, what you do in terms of your work in tech?
Well, theater is one of those things that you have to do it. Theater is about words. And I know it appears to be easy because you're walking and talking, but it requires technique. It requires you to be good at what you do, is what I think everybody should want to do. So I think educating oneself to both the craft, the history of things, to read, and read again. If I had two things to say about my education, it would be one, that I would do differently. I would read a lot more. And I probably would have rested my artistic training upon a preparation for business as well, which I'm suggesting to my daughter who loves dance. I think to know how business works, to know how money works, because oftentimes as an artist, and I'm very guilty of it, it becomes, the art, and I sort of throw my hands up about business, but I don't think we can afford to do that. So it's time to know how to do both things.
Again, on behalf of the Cultural Caravan, we salute your work, Lynn, and it's an honor and pleasure to speak to you, and please continue in wonderful work soon.
Very, very much.
Greetings. We're now here joined by the great Woody King Jr. We want to first of all salute your work, and this is a spectacular event. Tell us about the significance of the Black Theater Festival that you're producing here.
Okay, what we thought was trying to have a series of plays and events highlighting Black contributions to Black history and what the struggle has been. And tonight and this weekend, it was a kickoff of the festival with the People of Clarendon County.
Woody, you have traditionally brought some excellent plays. I know you have plays going currently at New Federal Theater.
Yes.
And just tell us about some upcoming things. This is a tremendous effort, particularly as you know, on the eve of, last year we lost the great Larry Leon Hamlin. And in terms of continuing the spirit, because I know that the next year, this National Theater Festival, tell us what we can expect going forward as we celebrate, and you've been celebrating.
Well, as always, I'm always tying history into entertainment. So what we have on now is a tribute to the Negro League, plays about Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige. Coming up immediately after that at New Federal will be a play on Sweet Mama String Bean. It'll be about Ethel Waters and her contribution to Broadway, her contribution to music, and her life, which was lived both spiritually and in the entertainment world.
Well, again, we want to thank you so much, and thank you for bringing this to New York. Take care.
Ms. Bernstein, you mentioned that when you found the scripts here at the Schomburg, you mentioned you were kind of excited about it.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how you felt and what were your first couple of steps that you did?
Well, first of all, the actual seeing of the manuscript was a thrill. It was, I believe it was the original manuscript. Yes. And it had Ossie Davis's crossings out and writings in. I mean, it was so clear that he was thinking about this and how it could be as good as possible. And the script had the names, not of the characters in it, but of the actors who played in it. And if you look at the book, there's a reproduction of the first page of the script, so you can see how it was laid out. I was thrilled. I am a person who loves history and loves what I've learned from aesthetic realism about how to see people in history. And so it was about history, but I also felt finding the manuscript was a new way, perhaps, of making history. To have children really see what happened during the Civil Rights Movement. There are many young people today who have really very little idea of what happened. So when the librarians made a copy for me and I read the play on the way home on the subway, I was moved to tears. And I felt Ossie Davis, he wanted people to feel history, and he used his experience as an actor and a person of drama to take history and give it a dramatic form. And so I was thrilled. And I could not wait to get to the telephone and tell him that here it is, and I love it, and I want it to have a long life. So I could say more, but I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask the actors how they felt about reading Ossie Davis's work, especially at this time. I don't know if you read his work before, enacted it, but what it meant to you today on this stage.
It was a tremendous honor to be asked to do it. I was so nervous trying to step in the shoes of Miss D to even think about doing it. So the actor's vanity came in. It's like, oh my God, now they made that announcement. But in fact, I felt, as Ms. Bernstein said, that I was a part of history, talking about history, making history here at the Schomburg, rebirthing information that is so important for me, for young people to rehear again, especially now. You know, as we are at the mouth of our next presidential election, and to really understand the importance of if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. So it was very, very important. In fact, I mean, I would love to do it again, and I'd love to do it again in a school, you know, with young people. I'd love to do that.
I mean, for me, Mr. Davis was such a gracious man, a dignified man, that sometimes people didn't realize the fire that was burning so hard inside of him until you realized his work. Because on the outset, the revolutionary inside of him wasn't so evident until you saw his example. So it's always an incredibly honorable thing for any actor that has any, I think, substance, and he's an actor of color, to not only witness Mr. Davis's work, but to participate in it, to learn from it by his example. And as an actor and as a man, all I can do is be, I think, blessed to realize, or I would be remiss if I didn't realize in his presence that I was in the presence of greatness, and I was in the presence of a leader, and I was in the presence of somebody who would set an example for me, not only as an artist, but as a man. So as to come up here, to come up to the Schomburg and to explore his work and to experience his work inside and deliver it to you, it's just, it's a moment of not only pride, but it's a moment of hope for us also, because it sets a fire under something that we have almost lay dormant for a minute, our accomplishments in lack of accomplishments. This says the things that we were fighting for in the 50s are still prevalent, and we have to keep fighting. Our kids still aren't getting proper education. Our kids still aren't getting proper schools. This is the problem, and he's saying it hasn't gone away, so if we can bring this play out like now and do it now in all the things that are present in this place still exist. Go around the corner. You know, my kids are in public school. We have to bring toilet paper and tissues and stuff to the school. There's no mirrors in the bathroom and things like this. So, you know, is it equal? No, it wasn't equal then. It's not equal now. Have we made some leeway? Yes, we have, but we got a lot of work to do. The last line in this says, we will keep working. We have to take from that. And that shows right the kind of man that Mr. Davis was. He says, the fight is not over, keep fighting. And he himself led by his example.
I have a different kind of history with this wonderful, wonderful couple, family of mine. Miss Ruby D, Mr. Ossie Davis. of course, going back to the original Raisin in the Sun, as a youngster, with this young, wonderful woman as my mom in that play. But what I remember distinctly was when we later did a TV series called Peyton Place. And once again, we were teamed together as mother and son. And we were having a tough time of it with the character builders and the storyline of the story for this first new black family to move into Peyton Place. And I remember Ruby saying, after one of our meetings in frustration with the producers and the powers that be, saying, I'm gonna call Ossie. He'll take care of this. And she did. She called Ossie, and he came in like a knight and just took care of it. You know, and he had with such eloquence, because I was all fire and brimstone and young and, power to the people, and he just kind of came in with a soothing hand and just kind of parted the waters, and we walked on through.
The production itself, what do you get out of it?
Well, you see, these are actors, and although I'm a member of SAG, I got my card in my pocket. And my ambition is to play a judge on Law and Order. The other, Giuliani and Koch and Mike Blumberg, each has been on, but they were playing themselves. I don't want to play I want to say, in my chamber. But anyway, these are all actors, and they have a sort of different take on this. But I really wish the media would concentrate on what the goal is here, and that's the endowment. There you go. And the purpose of the endowment, as I understand it, is not simply to find some students of color who need some help to go to school, because there's a whole ton of them, but to find some who will also wish to use their education as activists, which is Ruby and Ossie. I mean, they have all kinds of causes. You want places and circumstances where there was not a camera, not a reporter, not a damn soul, and they were there. And I've been privileged to be with them on some of those occasions. And those of us in government politics, they sort of, and that's one of the advantages I have now. I am not running for anything, and I'm too old. I aged out. I can't do any of that anymore. And but I love children. I care about young people, and so the Ossie Davis endowment is very, very important. And frankly, the goal is not that great. $1 million a year for 5 years, $5 million. Some of you all out there could give us the whole thing. but that's where I want the emphasis now. As Ruby just said, you all will remember that 1199 was Martin Luther King's favorite union. Oh, yes, and so Mofan and all those people, I had the privilege of knowing some of them too. And so I'm sure that when you get through going down through all of Ossie's material, you may find some other work like this. But Brown versus the Board of Education is a tremendously important step forward. And you all, everybody here, I guess, or most of you either knew or knew of or read about Dr. Clark, Kenneth Clark. It was he, a psychologist, who had this experiment where you show a little black child, a white doll, and a black doll. And the child would grab the white doll. I mean, that was part of the case that was used. That was the experiment that was used in the case of Brown versus the Board of Education that ultimately gave us the point that separate is not equal. It can't be equal if it's separate. So anyway, I want to see this endowment succeed, as I'm sure it will. I think these actors and the others who will participate, and Woody King and all, are to be commended for giving their time and energy to this worthwhile project.
You know, I'm of the age now that, you know, I feel like I have to say what's on my mind. And that is, you know, we're being given this extra, a lot of us up here are elders, over 70, 75, and I'm probably the oldest one in the room.
I'm right there.
and I'm thinking that we're given these 70, we're given these 25 extra years, and I'm talking because I'm remembering things that Ossie and I used to talk about, and it's fine to come to such a place as this, but I'm thinking of what are those years for, and what we saw tonight was an example. I'm thinking of some of the things we talked about, and that is, you said at this age we're just young enough to begin some of the purpose of our lives, and that is making life better for our children and our grandchildren. And one of them is one thing I would like to do, and one thing that this group encourages me to become is a senior advocate. You know, to put on, to pack up my pills, get to my motorized wheelchair, and hit the road. And get people writing letters to Congress and getting that Constitution working. Put that thing on its feet. You know, we used to talk so much about. Sometimes many. I think about the years we've gone, and because he was crazy about the Constitution, and he loved to read this and this and this and this, and about big business and corporations and about all kinds of things he would read to me. You know, sometimes I wouldn't be interested, but I understood. but now as I grow older, I understand the passion, and so I'm saying, so this is more than just a performance to me. It reminds me of that commitment I have to myself, and that is to become one of the senior agitators.
I hope you've enjoyed this program. We continue to encourage you to write and tune in and tell a friend about Cultural Caravan. But until next time, Louise Dente saying thank you.
you.